Hello, everyone. My name is John Edwards. With me, as always, is Zeke Baker, except for tonight, because he is still on paternity leave. Zeke, wherever you are, whatever time it is, thank you for making us a part of your day, and I hope your little daughter and son are doing well. But because you're not here, I had to bring some friends along with me. I have Justin and James, the Barrels and Brews crew. Everybody knows you that listens to this show, and everybody knows you who goes shopping for some good bourbon in the Middle Tennessee area. Thank you guys for joining. It's always good to have you back.
Thank you for having me, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
James doesn't know where to put his hands, just like Ricky Bobby. Ricky Bobby had him up in the middle, though. That's the problem. Is you kind of have him out to the side right now. He had him up in the middle.
I shaved my chest, so it's a little different.
You shave your chest?
Yeah, because I don't want to have beards.
Mount
Fair.
Rushmore takes care of it, though. Right. That's fine.
Fair. But, the last time you were here, you were drinking nut juice. Tonight, we're drinking we're drinking bourbon.
But that was justified.
I mean, you did have almond milk.
Everybody justified that. You were part of that.
I was a part of it.
Right?
I was a part of it.
Almond milk, man.
But,
yeah, so,
well, it's hashtag nut juice, not hashtag almond milk.
Both. You got to put both together. It makes the pair.
I know it does make the pair, but it's the same thing. It's not a pair.
yeah.
It's a singular thing with two names.
I think you should put both together.
Okay. But we also have another friend here as well. We have our friend Daniel, who's my neighbor and a very, very good guy who's always posting things in the bourbon community. Daniel, thank you for joining us as well.
Thanks so much for having me.
I know you're thinking, how the hell do I follow that?
That's tough to follow right there.
Especially with nut juice.
Yeah. Tough to follow nut juice.
Well, we are very, very happy that you're here and attempting to follow Nut Juice. The three of us.
That's what makes sense, right?
Yeah. It is. And we're not saying any bad words, so it's okay. Does not need an explicit rating at all. This is just, it is the circle of life, and it moves us all. So obviously, we should let you guys know it's very late at night, and Justin was working tonight, so he missed out on the fun. But James, Daniel, and I went to the Nashville Whiskey Festival at the Omni Hotel. It's put on by Midtown Cork Dorks. Every year it comes out. It's a really, really cool event. A bunch of people were there. I mean, when I tell you, the thing about this event, unlike other events that come to Nashville, is this one is not just bourbon focused, it's whiskey focused. So there were a bunch of scotches there, as well as a bunch of bourbons, as well as just American whiskeys that were there. Daniel, I know you had the VIP ticket. What did you actually think about it? What were some places you hit up? Sorry, Justin, we're going to make you feel really bad and talk about this for a few minutes, but what did you hit up? Who'd you talk to while you were there?
Yeah, so I had a hit list for the VIP hour. I had 1 hour, so first stop I had Four Roses with their 130th limited edition small batch, which was fantastic. And then next door to that, I hit up the Beam booth for the Little Book 2, which was also pretty good. And then I kind of spread out into some scotch. But overall, I thought the hour was pretty great. There was a good selection for the VIP tickets. Got some swag bags, got some cool stuff that the regular tickets didn't get you. So overall, I think it was a pretty good purchase.
Well, and a lot of the people there, there were some really good things if you either had VIP or knew the right people. James and I were able to get our hands on some 2018 Birthday Bourbon. We were able to get our hands on some of the Wild Turkey Revival. There was Elijah Craig Barrel Proof that was there. I want to talk about those whiskeys in and of themselves. I've had the 130th before. I'm not sure if have you had it yet, James?
Yes, I drink it at the distillery with Mandy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a little bit back.
No, a little bit back. Do you remember it? Has it been so
100%.
far? 100%.
No, we did that before we actually went and picked a barrel. It was
nice.
Little warm up. Good warm up.
So when I had the
Pretty good.
130th, I mean, let's get into that. Let's talk about some of those bourbons that we were able to actually have tonight. I mean, I've talked about the 130th before. Some of you might have seen Zeke and I do a video on it. That one's so tough to me because it's good. Don't get me wrong. It's a very good bourbon. It takes a very long time to open up. So in my list of, the limited edition small batches, it's definitely not as high as some of the other ones on there for me. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad bourbon, because I do love Four Roses. I love those limited edition small batches. There were just years that I liked better than this year. Doesn't mean I'm not going to get a bottle. Doesn't mean that I don't still like it. It's just not... you have to be very patient, which is something dads don't always have time to be patient, because when I'm ready to have a pour, it's like I got this time. I have a limited amount of time to get that pour in. But Daniel, what do you think? You got to have it tonight.
Yeah, I was probably one of the first pours out of the bottle they opened tonight, and I could definitely tell it was a little bit tight. I think it could benefit from some airtime, but based on the recipe and the mash bill that it's made out of, it's definitely got potential to be pretty great once it's got some oxidation to it.
Absolutely. And I sat on it. I think Zeke and I sat on it for an hour until we finally started getting something for the nose. When you had it with Mandy, James, was it a fresh crack? Had it been open for a little bit?
Well, it wasn't actually in a limited bottle. It was in a bottle from the distillery. So I don't know the airtime on it. I don't know anything on that. It was something she pulled out from below and said, "This is 130." And
What'd you think then?
It was pretty freaking delicious. I just woke up because I slept the whole time on the way there that morning. Justin can test that, but yeah, it was the first pour of the day, and it wasn't bad.
All right, so I'm just going to go to you for things that I know I saw you drink tonight, because you won't have exceptions. James is always like, I'm like, hey, do you have this? He's like, well, I did, like, with the person who made it, and like they pulled it right out of the barrel for me, because
Justin was there too.
Pretty good
I
exception.
know. What did you think of the 130th, Justin?
We had the opportunity to taste this probably before anybody else did, and I thought it was pretty exceptional. I loved it. I'm a big fan of the 130th. I think as far as how it hits our palates, or my palate in general, I thought it was very rich, especially mid palate, and as far as the finish, I was very impressed with it. I loved it, and I couldn't wait to have the release for it. So
you probably did not get a fresh crack. So
No.
that being said, let's talk about, did you have any of the birthday bourbon tonight?
I did not.
You did not? I'm sorry. So James and I had birthday bourbon tonight. We had it a couple times. I know that's really bad to say after you didn't get any, but the good thing about this birthday bourbon, it's actually 101 proof. So it's the first time that it's something that is over 100 proof for a birthday bourbon. I couldn't believe how much spice and vanilla were in there. So, if you really think about it, and I'm going off of, again, these aren't notes where I was actually able to sit down, really enjoy the pour, and write notes out and do a whole nose taste finish thing, but it was very spicy. I got a lot of pepper on it.
It was a fresh crack as well.
It was a fresh crack
at the beginning
as
of the
well.
night. Not when we had it, but at the beginning of the night, it was a fresh crack.
It was a fresh
Makes a
crack,
difference.
but it was really, really good. The smoothness of the vanilla, along with the spiciness of the pepper and those other spices that were in there, I thought they complemented each other really, really well. It had a nice medium to long finish on it. It's actually probably one of my more favorite birthday bourbons that I think we all can agree, those 2013, 2014, those earlier birthday bourbons were really something special. I think it's almost kicked it up a little bit to a higher notch, both literally and figuratively, having it at 101 proof. That was really good. Did you have any of the Wild Turkey Revival?
I did. I actually have a bottle of my own that I drank on the night before.
And you probably wish you didn't, because you just would have got some more.
I wish I hadn't have opened that bottle, because I would have partaken with the Revival bottle there, but I got to try some really good Russell's Reserve single barrel rye while I was there too. That was really excellent. So,
what did you think of the Revival? Because I'm just hitting the big ones first before we even get into some of the other things.
Honestly, probably one of my favorite pours of the year personally. 12-year 101 is just incredible, and then finish that in an Oloroso cask, and there's really not much to complain about. A lot of good spice, a lot of good sweetness balanced with some good oak. One of my favorite turkeys of all time.
What about you, James?
I'm a fan. No, I enjoy it, especially with some airtime. I think it opens up really well. We cracked a bottle. So I say we, Justin cracked a bottle. Soon as we got at the store, I wasn't even there that day. But I tried it from beginning pretty much to the end of the bottle, and it got progressively better throughout.
And I'll tell you, I know I am of an unpopular opinion when I say this. I thought Master's Keep and Decades were okay. Zeke and I put them in a blind with Russell's Reserve, a good Russell's Reserve store pick, and Rarebreed. Pound for pound, Rarebreed and Russell's Reserve, I think, are the best wild turkey buys you could ever have. You know, I say that lovingly because I do love wild turkey, but Decades, Master's Keep were a little thin for me. Revival, I was so pleasantly surprised. I think the way that the finished cask on it is in there just really added an extra oomph and gave it a little more flavor that I was missing in Master's Keep and Decades that I really enjoyed. So for me, that was just a home run for wild turkey. I think one of the things I took from tonight, that's a bottle that I'm going to go look for. Another bottle that really surprised me tonight that I hadn't really looked at before, Stolen Whiskey 11 year. It's an American whiskey. It's a newer brand. I just like the vanilla on it. It was more of a daily sipper for me. It's not going to be something that I'm pulling out for a special pour, but as a daily drinker, that was something that I might, get a bottle of and go through and see how I like it. And then we did going to take a little break here for a second because our friend Jeff Pennington, we were able to connect with him, James and I. And although we weren't able to actually get him on the show tonight, it is pretty late. Zeke and I will sit down with him sometime soon, but we will take a little break. We were able to talk with Jeff, and Jeff has some really big news going on at Pennington Distillery in my neighborhood. So let's hear what he had to say. Here at the Nashville Whiskey Festival, I am with Jeff Pennington. You have a lot of good stuff that's coming out. You're about to release something here in about 20 minutes at the Whiskey Festival. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so it's our Davidson Reserve. We call it our Genesis Bourbon. It's our high rye mash bill that we make, which is a 25% rye, 5 malt, 70 corn. And that's typically our Tennessee whiskey recipes, but we charcoal mellow it. But during our first 22 barrels we made, we were testing out some different yeasts. We were testing out some different enzymes, and testing out different, just tweaking a little bit here and there. And we didn't really charcoal mellow those. We were just kind of playing around with the recipe. They all turned out really delicious. And so what we ended up doing with that is we've now harvested that. It's been 4 years on the 17th. So we're going to release Nashville's first bottled and bond whiskey, grain to bottle right here in Nashville. Since probably Prohibition. I don't know one before then. And so what we're going to do tonight is taste a couple of the single barrels that we picked out. We've selected 4 of those personally that we love, and we're gonna harvest 1,017 bottles, 1017 on 1017.
And there's a little party for that too, right?
It's called the Hardest Harvest. We had it last year, first annual, so this is gonna be the second year. Free to the public, 6 to 9, 5 to 6 for industry hour. But we've got a Lana Royale playing, and we got the Band of Heathens playing, which is awesome, and it should be a fun party. And we're gonna release the whiskey that day, and we're actually going to dump all the rest of the whiskey into a 1,000-barrel cask, and we're going to do a true Scotch-style Solera. So
that sounds awesome. And last year, I remember going. It was great. You guys released your rye then, and you had about 5 different barrels of the rye. I remember trying every single one of them, and I ended up getting 2 that I really liked. I mean, that rye's been great, and then you guys have a 4-grain whiskey that you came out with since that rye too, right?
Yeah, the rye was actually, we did 20 total barrels over the first year, and we kind of expected that to last us the whole year until the first 4-year-old whiskey, and luckily it was more popular and it sold quicker than we thought, but unfortunately we kind of sat back. We're like, well, we don't want to sell any more young rye. We won't have our 4-year-old next May. So we kind of played around. And what we did is we pulled 50 barrels of each of our oldest of our 3 recipes, and we did a unique 10-barrel blend. And that's how we came up with the 4 grain. We're now on batch 2 of the 4 grain, and it's been a big hit. And so, but now our Tennessee whiskey will start releasing in November, and our Tennessee bourbon will start releasing in December. So as of January 1, we'll have our whole lineup out, all 4 years old and older. And so
Whoa, that's awesome. I'll see you on 10/17.
Yes.
I hope everybody else comes down to Pennington Distillery. It's in my neighborhood in Nashville, so hopefully you and I will sit down with Zeke when he comes back from his paternity leave. A very long paternity leave, I must say, but thank you for taking a couple minutes with us, and we'll sit down longer soon.
I can't wait. Do some barrel diving.
All right, so that is really cool, the fact that Pennington has the first bottled in bond in Nashville, I think he said since Prohibition, and it's really cool that it's in my neighborhood, our neighborhood, Daniel.
Absolutely.
But there's a lot of good stuff going on there. Their rye that was released last year was great, and I just want to echo that Hardest Harvest Party is on October 17th. I know I'll be going down there that night. I'm sure Daniel will be going down there that night.
No doubt.
I'd say we'd walk. It's a little too far to walk, but if we got one of those scooters, we could be there pretty quick.
Yeah, I'm going to hold off on the scooter. Maybe a joyride.
Nothing's better than having a 6'3", 300-pound former lineman on a scooter just zipping down the street.
I'll watch.
Just saying. The what else? So what were you really surprised with? What was something, I know you were getting into it, but out of all the things that were there, because we had Jack Daniels there, we had Jim Beam, we had Andy from Belle Meade was there, we had people from Chattanooga that were there, we had Jack Daniels, Elijah Craig, Barrell Bourbon, Joe, the founder of Barrell Bourbon, was there, and I'm going to get to that in a second. Then we had Angel's Envy. There was Hudson Whiskey, bunch of whiskeys that were there. Whistle Pig was there. Our buddy Chandler was there. We had Templeton Rye was there. We had Bird Dog Whiskey with Calumet. We had so many different whiskeys there on the American side, but then at the same time you said Belvini, we had Glenfiddich, we had Dalmore from Scotch, we had Johnny Walker, Tullamore Dew, the Irish whiskey. There were so many different whiskeys that were there. What was, you were saying Daniel, you went out and explored a little bit more. What was the one thing that you left that was the biggest surprise to you?
I think the biggest surprise to me, not as a Scotch drinker, it's kind of exploring that area of whiskey, but the Macallan Rare Cask was one of, if not the best whiskeys I had all night.
Well, it's also a $300 bottle, and it is worth every penny. That is one of my favorite scotches ever.
Absolutely. It's a little disappointing to hear that it's priced where it is, understandably so, but it's probably pretty hard to come by, but absolutely would be on my list of items to pick up if I saw it in a store. No doubt.
It doesn't have anything to it that is the typical Scotch profile, and I think, Justin, chime in if you've had some. I see you nodding your head. It's not the typical Scotch profile. It almost tastes more like an American whiskey to me than it would a Scotch.
I can pretty much attest to that. I've had the luxury of actually tasting a lot of the Macallan's expressions here in the last couple of years, and for me, that had pretty much the overall delivery and value for me, for my palate, on what I evaluate, and I think it's an exceptional whiskey. So I can attest to that, and I think it's fantastic. So
I concur, Doctor.
I concur.
So James, what was the biggest surprise for you there? Or what were some surprises that you found at the festival?
Of course, there's some favorites that I always have. Some stuff I like to drink. Something that's new and upcoming that I tried tonight was like the Old Dominick they've got some good, neat stuff coming up.
It's a 4-year, 100 proof. They're putting it together. Alex down there, they got her from Wild Turkey. She's doing great things. The blend of that, it's an American whiskey. I think it was 51% rye, 51% corn, 44% rye. Yeah. That thing had a real spice bomb to it that was super good.
The flavor profile of that thing is awesome. And from what I took away from that, I think as far as from what they're distilling there at their own distillery, that's pretty much the exact identification of their mash bill that they're trying to procure. This is actually a distillate that they released from Indiana.
I can look. I have the bottle in the other room.
It says
I really
distilled
should go
from.
look at it.
It says distilled from Indiana.
No, that's awesome. And I know that they are getting the right people in there that will let them actually sit on their own distillate until it's ready, which is amazing. Last but not least, I mean, we could talk about the food that was there. I liked that they had a tater tot bar. They had a band playing out on the outside. They had wings. Everything we say just makes Bitter Betty over here really upset that he wasn't able to go. But they had a tater tot bar. You could get regular tater tots or sweet potato tots. There was a wing bar. There were these pork kind of Asian inspired sandwiches that
brisket
were really
and street
good.
corn.
Brisket and street corn.
It's pretty good.
It was really, really good.
All I got was soggy tots. Like, that's the only thing I ate tonight.
That sounds like a pick.
I
soggy tots. The next pick.
I hate all of y'all right now.
I kid you not.
I hate all of y'all right now.
I ate a part of something Joanne had with some meat in it, and then soggy tots all night. The only thing, and then I had to dump those out.
Well, and that's something else. You know, we had Joanne there from Wild Turkey, who is Jimmy Russell's granddaughter. Dan Gardner was there. You know, Andy from Bellmead. We had Brian Downing from Diageo. There were a lot of great.
Angie from Brown Foreman was there.
Angie from Brown Foreman was there.
Joe Beatrice was there. Like,
Joe from Barrell. Which brings me to my last thing that I want to talk about before we actually get into talking about some other stuff that's going on. Joe from Barrell brought out this amazing 15-year. It's coming out soon. It is the Barrell Craft Spirits Cask Strength Bourbon. It's 15 years old, 105.1 proof, 52.55% ABV. This was pretty dang good. The price tag on this one, I'm hearing, is going to be over $200, but the finish on it was pretty incredible. When you're at that space, like I said, you don't have a long time to actually sit and taste and write things down, but it definitely had, it didn't taste too burnt. It didn't taste bad for being over 100. It was at the right proof. It was nice and creamy. That finish lasted for a long time. I very, very much enjoyed that pour. James, what do you think of that pour?
No, I definitely enjoyed it. I wish I would have been able to drink it out of proper glass, have a little time with it, see what it's all about. But yeah, I mean, it was 15 years old. It was right at 105.1 proof. This was bottle 000 that we tried. So it's pretty neat. I wish we had more time with it to give you an honest, evaluation of it. But I enjoyed it from what we had.
Did you get that one?
I did, actually. I went back for seconds on the Barrell booth because I enjoyed it so much the first time. I'm really looking forward to that bottle hitting retail. I'm absolutely going to pick one up. It was up there with one of my favorite pours for the night. Joe said he got a lot of responses on some of the flavor profiles that a lot of folks were picking up on. But I think it's one of those bourbons that a lot of people are going to be attracted to. The proof's not too high. It's not overly oaky. It's got a nice long finish. And hopefully the price doesn't steer a lot of people away, but I'm definitely going to be looking out for that.
Anything else that it's going to make Justin salty?
Brisket and barrel bourbon will do it.
No, he just keeps sitting over here shaking his head at us. Everything we say, he's just over there shaking his head.
I just missed out, man. I'm not trying to be salty. I just wish I could have, enjoyed a little bit, but it's fine.
Somebody's got to sell
I'm not salty.
bottles.
I'm sorry. I wish you were there, though. You were there in spirit. Next year, I'm hoping that we'll do something more with this festival. We were talking to them tonight. I'd love to actually have us be there recording, doing something cool, bringing some people over. James, thank you very much for being my mandate. Daniel, thanks for hanging out while you were there. And Justin, thank you for holding the fort down. More importantly, though, we did get to have a bonding night after because you guys came over. We just watched the Conor McGregor fight. Let's talk about that for a second. This isn't a sports show, but we're drinking two things tonight before we actually talk about the Conor McGregor fight because, first off, Justin kind of looks like Conor McGregor. And second of all, it's either Johnny Bravo or Conor McGregor. You have the same beard as him.
JB all day. JB all day.
You have the same beard as him. All you need is like a big royal seal on your chest.
Well, see, that would make more sense for James because he's got Mount Rushmore on his chest, but it's just a little bit different.
I don't know.
I don't know, man.
Johnny Bravo with Justin. He's even got the black T-shirt on.
Oh, no.
He does have the black T-shirt on.
Look at him. That's Johnny Bravo. That screams Johnny Bravo.
That is Johnny
But
Bravo.
he's Johnny.
That was my nickname.
No question.
It was my nickname.
He's Johnny Bravo with
Before I started wearing
McGregor
hats all
beard.
the time, I had the hair too.
But
I did.
But you don't understand. He's Johnny Bravo with the Conor McGregor beard. But we're drinking two things tonight we're going to talk about. We're having them as a side-by-side. We're not doing these blind. We're just appreciating two things that were really, really good. And right now we just got a Russell Reserve pick from Jamie Farris and Dixon Dedmon. That's right, the old owl himself and the proprietor of Lincoln Road down in Mississippi. That is a great store. This is Barrel 68, Rickhouse G, floor 4. As we know, all of the Russell's Reserve Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey come in non-chill filtered at 110 proof, 55% ABV. And then we're keeping it in the Russell's family, and we are going to this Wild Turkey Rarebreed. It is the 116.8 barrel proof. It is the new bottle design. This was actually a pretty cool bottle just because it was given to us from a good friend. And that's all I'll say. It's nothing crazy. It's our typical Dad's Drinking Bourbon format this week. Let's just go clockwise. What do you think about this Russell's Reserve? You already had a glass, so you must have liked it, right?
Well, it definitely didn't suck.
No, I don't think it did.
No, sir. As far as this pick is concerned, it's probably been one of the standards as far as one of my favorite picks of Russell's Reserve. Of James and I can pretty much attest to that because we've had pretty much a love for this bottle, and there's a reason why when we visited this store for the first time that we cleaned out what was actually on the shelf. But I love this bottle. One of my absolute favorites, and I'm glad he has a few more because I do not, and I'm going to reap the benefits of his stash. So,
I popped it today. It's already
cheers.
half beat.
I know.
It is half beat already.
It was
I'm totally fine with that. I mean, it's made to drink, but I love this barrel. So
No, it is a great barrel. It's got hints of spice without being too spicy.
Like
It's
mouthfeel on
creamy.
this thing is unreal.
Yeah, it's excellent.
It's creamy, but it has that turkey spice to it, right? Where it has that turkey signature, but it's just so creamy. It's not overpowering. It's just such a nice, enjoyable. I mean, James, you keep giving me a hand signal. It's almost like it grabs you and just shakes you. Just go ahead and say it. I mean, it grabs you and shakes you.
Like a shake weight?
to the core.
Yeah, to the core. And it's kind of like a shake weight, I guess. Do people still use those?
Not really sure, but
But if you want to be a happy man, then normally You shake it.
If you want to be a happy man, drink this bottle of bourbon.
This is a great bottle. I just want to tip my hat to Jamie and Dixon. This
Fantastic.
was a great Russell's. The
Top
nose
three I've
is
ever had.
the nose is not anything different than what I typically get on a Russell's. I don't think there's anything that's super unique on the nose on it. Anybody who likes Russell's, knows Russell's, it's going to be that signature kind of, it's turkey. You can tell it's turkey.
Yep.
But that mouthfeel is just super creamy.
It's rich.
It sits there and it coats mouth. It lingers. It's orange.
For us, this is
Ultra
actually
rich.
one of those
Yeah,
dynamic
it's good.
experiences as
It's
far as a
so-
Russell's Reserve pick, and it set the standard for us. It's one of our favorite pours that we've had the pleasure of actually experiencing, and it's something that is a milestone in in our whiskey world as far as doing all that. So
Yeah, I can see that.
I hope they pick more.
I hope they do too. I hope they I have a Four Roses that we cracked tonight. We actually cracked Justin's bottle, but it is an OESK that JB and Dixon picked together. That is just a spice bomb. It is cinnamon. My quote to Justin on that one is, "It's everything Fireball should be if Fireball was a real whiskey." And
it is literally cinnamon candies in your mouth.
it's like those old Fireball candies. It's absolutely on fire. Last but not least, we have this Rarebreed 116.8 proof. Now, this is something that, for me, with Wild Turkey, this is just one of the staples. It's one of the ones that I think everybody should have in their cabinet. We're staring at the table here. We're thinking about doing a lot more with Wild Turkey. And we have Long Branch on the table, Kentucky Spirit, the Wild Turkey Rye, and then this Rarebreed and this Russell's. And I love Rarebreed. It's something that I know that I can get at a good price, that is always going to come through for me. I like a higher proof whiskey. This comes in at 116.8. Everything about this is something that I would typically go for. How do you guys feel?
I can definitely attest to that. Baking spices all the way around. Good mouthfeel. Pretty much of a long finish. As far as what I've tasted out of the Rarebreed profile, I've been pretty happy with it. I'm a big, we're big fanboys of Wild Turkey in general, so you can pretty think past us. Like I think that's an exceptional whiskey, and as far as what you get for your price point and overall delivery and complexity, it's a great pour.
Daniel?
For a barrel proof bourbon, it's not overtaxing to the palate. It's readily available. It's fairly affordable. It's got some well-balanced oak. It's got some well-balanced spice, sweetness. You get a little bit of that just classic Wild Turkey 101, but a little bit of extra. It's dialed up to like 11. I'm a big fan. This batch is really good.
I agree. This is a special batch. James, what do you think about this one?
I'm right there with everybody else. I'm a big fan. It's hard to go wrong, especially with quality product. They always put out a quality product.
I don't feel like we did a service in the tasting notes, but I do like that we talked about all the things that we got to try tonight. Last but not least, before we go out, we did all watch the Conor McGregor fight tonight. He tapped out in a rear naked choke in the 4th round. Justin, how do you feel about this? I mean, I know you're a big Conor fan.
I mean, honestly, I thought it could go either way, but I called it like I thought. If it went to the ground, if it stayed on his feet, I thought Conor had the advantage, especially with his power and quickness. But at the same time, man,
He had to stay on his feet.
sorry.
No, I'm kidding.
You asked.
I asked the question.
What a terrible
like-
week to launch a whiskey brand. You
No.
launch your whiskey.
Well, first
and
of
you
all,
get
we
your
didn't even
ass
get
kicked.
it. We didn't even get it before the freaking fight.
Yeah.
Like it was
No,
gonna. It
we
was
couldn't get
like
it.
for our market, it
It
got
had-
launched after.
Well, no,
we're
let's
getting the
just
get
whiskey
it
next
sold.
week.
Maybe it was a great week then.
We could have sold a 220 bottle.
I like Connor. I think they're both showmen.
we couldn't have sold anything.
No, let's talk about because any publicity is good publicity. So
No,
he's
that's
still
right.
making $125 million.
It don't
He's
matter.
fine.
No matter what.
His whiskey is still gonna sell because
He's still one of the best fighters in the world. It is what it is.
It was his first one back after 2 years. So you put all of that together. Connor had a great week. He made more money than I'm ever gonna make in my lifetime.
Oh hell,
He had a great
I don't
week.
hate him for it.
Bingo.
Shoot, I still think he's one of the best athletes in the world, and I think
He still had a great week.
It was just good to see him back in the ring. He's got all this energy, all this charisma that everyone loves to see him in MMA because
everybody loves him, man.
some of these fights they get boring, and Connor brings this element to the sport that no other athlete can bring, and it's just refreshing to watch.
He's a showman.
Tiger
for
Woods
sure.
of MMA.
No,
Yeah.
he's a showman, but
100%.
they both brought it to the table.
And Tiger Woods won again.
18 holes, and he still has time to play golf.
All day.
I'm
On
just,
the 18th, like, come
I was
on,
so
dude.
happy to see that.
Like,
by the
yes,
way, that
he
was
won it.
awesome.
Yeah.
I'm
he
just
didn't-
saying he came back and he won just
Love it.
like
I love it.
just like Connor will someday. And there is nobody more charismatic in the game than the Barrels and Brews crew. Go down to Carruthers Wine and Spirits and see them, see their picks. They have a lot of stuff coming out. They just had a Not a Rye from Blom Brothers that just came out. They had some. You guys have some other picks I know that are coming the rest of this year. What else should people be keeping their eyes peeled for?
Oh, good Lord. We've got about 10 coming in the next few month or so. We got 3 Knob Creek 14-plus-year-olds. We've got a LDI Whistle Pig pick coming through. An OWA Weller Antique.
2 Russells.
2 Russell Reserves.
Wathen's Barrel Proof.
Wathen's Barrel Proof. 2, one of only allowed in the state, and etc. So if you're interested, just follow us on Instagram at Carruthers WS and also Barrels and Brews, and turn on your post notifications, and you get all. We're pretty fair about it, so you'll get to see it.
Daniel, thank you very much for coming on as well. It was a pleasure having you. It was awesome. James, thanks for having you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Same thing with us. Follow us on Instagram at Dad's Drinking Bourbon. Turn on your post notifications. Follow us on Facebook at Dad's Drinking Bourbon. Join our Facebook group for Dad's Drinking Bourbon. It's a place where all of us could get together, hang out, talk about whiskey. You could see Zeke while he's on his paternity leave. Zeke and I will be doing a lot of cool stuff with that group. We'll let you know when good things are coming on for us. We'll make sure that we're going live in that group. There's a place for everybody to go and talk to each other. Follow us on Twitter at Bourbon Dads. Follow our podcast on Apple, Google Play, Stitcher, Podknife, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and YouTube for the audio version. And then please make sure you leave us a 5-star review. Tell us why you like us. And tune in next week. Maybe Zeke will be back. Maybe he won't be back. Maybe I'll have another special guest. But we always like it when you tune in. Cheers, everyone, and night.